The pit was a nightmare beyond comprehension. Flesh and fire twisted together, and the air was thick with the stench of sulfur and decay. Screams echoed endlessly, a symphony of torment. Eleanor found Daniel, his form battered and broken, his eyes hollow. "Why did you come here?" he whispered. "To save you," Eleanor replied, her voice shaking. Before he could argue, a brilliant light descended. Gabriel and Michael appeared, their wings stretching wide, their swords blazing with divine fire. "God has not abandoned you," Gabriel said. "Let us end this." The angels fought their way through the pit, cutting down demonic abominations as they led Eleanor and Daniel toward a portal to paradise. Daniel hesitated. "I can't go, not while you're still fighting." Eleanor shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I can't leave you here," Daniel smiled sadly. "Then take my strength. Finish this." Eleanor returned to earth, her body glowing with divine light. The devil was waiting, her fury shaking the ground. "You dare bring angels into this?" she roared. Eleanor stood tall, wielding a sword of holy fire. "Your time is up." The world teetered on the brink of oblivion. Cities lay in ruins, the cries of the suffering echoing across the wastelands. Demons roamed freely, feeding on despair, their numbers growing with each fallen soul. The apostles, battle-worn and weary, fought desperately to hold the darkness at bay, but it was a losing battle. Chris, once full of righteous fury, now looked upon the wreckage with hollow eyes. Finn had long since stopped counting the dead. Even John, the soulless child, found himself questioning his purpose. Eleanor, their unwavering protector, had become more spirit than flesh, her body breaking under the weight of divine power. And yet, the devil only grew stronger. No longer the seductive trickster, she now revealed her true form, an unholy monstrosity, her shadow blotting out the heavens. Her laughter was a deafening storm, shaking the earth itself. "You cannot win," she roared, her voice a symphony of suffering. "Every cry, every tear, every doubt feeds me. Your world is mine." Even with Gabriel and Michael by their side, even with Eleanor wielding divine fire, they were being crushed under the sheer force of darkness. The devil was beyond them, beyond angels, beyond demons, beyond anything the world had ever known. Then, in the world's final hour, Jesus rose. In the midst of devastation, where faith was all but lost, he emerged, not in thunder, not in blinding light, but as a man walking among the ruins. He came to the forgotten, the broken, the hopeless. A woman lay dying in the streets, her body ravaged by disease. He knelt beside her, whispering words no one could hear, and she opened her eyes, whole again. A starving child collapsed from hunger, his body fragile as glass. Jesus broke a piece of bread and placed it in his hands. That single loaf became a feast, and soon the starving found themselves full. The apostles, bloodied and beaten, felt his presence before they saw him. A warmth spread through them, a hope they had long abandoned. Anna, the one who had always believed, was the first to fall to her knees. "My Lord." One by one, the others followed. Finn, Chris, John, all of them, trembling and exhausted, knelt before the man they had fought for without ever truly knowing. Jesus looked upon them with sorrow and love. "Rise, my apostles. There is work to be done." The devil felt his presence instantly. She let out a snarl that shattered mountains, her fury shaking the heavens. "No," she howled. "Not again. I will not let you take them from me." Jesus did not answer. He simply turned to his apostles. "Go," he commanded, "spread my word. Bring them back to me. All of them." The apostles did not hesitate. Bloodied and battered, they ran. They found cameras, radios, satellites still clinging to life. They spoke in tongues, in every language known to man. Their voices echoed through televisions, crackled through old radios, flashed across dimming screens. Anna wept as she spoke, her voice breaking. "He has returned. Do not be afraid. Do not give in to darkness. Hope is not lost." Chris, once lost in his own pride, now stood tall. Believe in him, and he will lift you from the ashes," and the world listened. From the depths of war-torn ruins, from the streets where faith had been long abandoned, voices rose in prayer. And for the first time in centuries, hell wavered. The devil screamed as the tide shifted, as her strength began to drain. She turned her monstrous eyes to Jesus, who simply stood, watching. "You will not take them from me," she shrieked, lunging with claws forged from centuries of sin. Jesus raised a hand. With a single word, he stopped her. She froze mid-strike, her form flickering between beast and woman. The power that had once been absolute now crumbled like sand between her fingers. The angels seized the opening. Gabriel and Michael struck with divine fury, their blades of light piercing the devil's shadow. Eleanor, her body breaking under the weight of heavenly fire, unleashed all that remained of her strength. The devil fell. For the first time, she stumbled, her monstrous form collapsing under its own weight. And then Jesus stepped forward. The devil, now wounded, glared up at him. "End it," she spat. "If you have the strength, then strike me down." Jesus did not answer with wrath. He knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on her burning flesh. "You were never meant to be my enemy," the devil snarled. "I am everything you despise." "No," Jesus said softly. "You are everything they fear. You are the consequence of their choices, the suffering they bring upon themselves. But even you have a purpose." The devil flinched as though burned. Lies, but there was doubt in her eyes. The demons that surrounded her, once endless in number, now stood silent, watching. Some trembled, their forms flickering. Others simply vanished. For the first time, hell itself seemed uncertain. The devil, wounded and furious, fled into the abyss, her cries of anguish echoing through the void. The battle was won, but at a cost too great to bear. Eleanor, her body broken beyond repair, felt the weight of her injuries pulling her down. Every breath was agony, every heartbeat a struggle. The divine fire that had sustained her flickered, then dimmed. She had given everything, her strength, her soul, her very life, to the fight. She fell to her knees, the world around her fading. The apostles gathered, their faces etched with grief. Chris clutched her hand, his tears falling onto her bruised skin. "Stay with us," he begged, his voice raw. But Eleanor knew her time had come. A warmth enveloped her, not of this world, but of something greater. A light, gentle and pure, cradled her in its embrace. The pain melted away, the battle-worn earth vanishing beneath her. When she opened her eyes, she was standing in a field bathed in golden light. The sky stretched endlessly, unmarred by darkness. A gentle breeze carried the scent of wildflowers. And then, laughter. Small hands grasped hers. She turned to see them, her children, their faces unmarked by sorrow. Tears spilled from her eyes as she fell to her knees, wrapping them in an embrace she had longed for. And beyond them, David stood, his smile trembling, his eyes filled with love. "You're home," he whispered, his voice breaking. She ran to him, collapsing into his arms, and for the first time in what felt like eternity, she was whole. As the apostles wept, as humanity knelt in prayer, Jesus raised his hands. And light spread across the earth. The dead rose. The wounded were healed. The lost found their way home. Jesus walked with his apostles, and though the war was not over, a new beginning had come.